Hi, my name is Sean Cowgill. Today's video is going to be all about the different jobs that we have in federal prison. Now, I was at a federal prison camp, which is a little bit different than your penitentiaries and your mediums, and even different than your lows because we have no fences. So a lot of our jobs were actually outside jobs. So I did a 52-month sentence for wire fraud. So I did false tax preparation for a bunch of homeless guys and drug addicts. Got them all fat refunds, and thought it was a loophole. Got caught, went to prison, did 52 months, and I'm guilty. Did the crime, I've done the time, now I'm out. On federal probation, I still got about 2 years left to go on that, and I'm making these videos for the guy who's on federal pretrial and wonder what prison's going to be like. Some of my videos are pre-trial, what you could do to get less time off your sentence. And the big thing is what's going to happen when I get to prison. That's what this one is about. So in the federal prison system, at least in the camps, the lows, and I think the mediums, I'm not too sure about the penitentiary. In the ADX, I know for sure they don't have to work. But in the camp, you work. At least most of the guys work. There's medical excuses people take, and there's ways to get out of work. But my camp had about 500 guys, and 400 of them had jobs. There's programs you could do instead of working and stuff, but I'm going to get right down to it. If you could hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, ring that bell. I'm trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers. Then I can go live with my videos. I can do questions and answers. I got a long way to go. So here's I got about 30 jobs written down here. I'll start with the first job is landscaping. So you've seen every prison. In camps, we don't have fences. So the landscapers actually can go outside of the camp. They can work all the way down to the road. And they're the guys that are going to water the plants, water the trees. Some of them have flower beds, and some of them get to get real creative, and they can make fancy flower beds. You should see what they do with rocks. I was in Colorado in the high desert, and these guys would make these kind of rock gardens. Really cool though. I mean, big spreads of them, and they'd spell out words and stuff, but they had to spell out the word FCI or something like that. The landscaper jobs pay anywhere from like $25 a month to $60 a month. So every job you're going to get in the federal prison system usually has 4 levels, level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Each level paying more money. Most jobs start you out at 12 cents an hour. 12 cents an hour. And that comes out to maybe $6 a month. Most of the jobs you're going to do are about 6 hours. There are a few jobs that work 8 hours. Some jobs that work 2 hours. Some jobs that work 1 day a week. Landscapers, they pretty much work Monday through Friday. And most of those guys are probably making about $40 a month, which is kind of decent money. So there's always a side hustle with almost every job that you get. So the side hustle for the landscapers is a couple of things. When they're out there emptying trash and things outside, the guards all smoke cigarettes. The cops, the COs. So the landscapers can pick up the cigarette butts, put them in their pocket, and usually they don't get searched coming back into the camp, and then they sell them. Another thing they can do is people actually will leave little packages on the road. They're not going to leave, they do leave big duffel bags full of alcohol and cartons of cigarettes and everything else on the side of the road at night. But that's another video that I'm going to do, and people pick those up. But the landscapers might be picking up little packages that they can put in their pocket, and maybe somebody leaves a cell phone out there, and they sneak that back into the camp. And that's their little side hustle. So the next job I got is snow patrol. So in Colorado, it snows a lot in the winter. Snow patrol is a lot like landscaping. So they have to clear all the walk paths and everything. Also, with the landscaping, with the snow patrol, we don't only take care of the camp. They send the inmates over to the medium, to the penitentiary, and to the ADX Supermax. And you will see guys driving lawnmowers in front of the federal penitentiary, outside of the fence. Those are inmates. They're usually dressed in kind of green, like a forest green shirt with, almost look like a forest ranger. Green pants, and work boots. And some of them got radios going, they got hats. You'll see guys out there with weed blow, with with weed blowers. You'll see guys with chainsaws, all kinds of power tools out there on the road, and no guard around nowhere. There's a trust that they have with the campers. So the next big job that almost everybody starts off at is food service. So food service is a big one. They have a lot of employees. I started off in food service. My food service was at the ADX Supermax. And so I'll get to that in a second. So food service pays 12 cents an hour to start. When you first get hired in the food service, you're going to start at the bottom. You're going to be a dishwasher or a tray scraper. Maybe a pots and pans scrubber. That's also a different part of the dishwashing section. You're going to wash thousands of trays every day. So they also have jobs like a baker. They have a cook job. They have a salad bar guy. And this is the guy that's going to restock the salad bar. We have an all-you-can-eat salad bar at the federal prison camp. And it's not just salad. It might be mashed potatoes and gravy, and it might be vegetables. It's usually vegetables. It might be soup. It might be garlic bread. It might be leftovers too that they throw on from the day before. Another job is the tables and the floors. So every time somebody leaves their table, you're going to wipe down the table. At the end of the day, they're going to sweep and mop all the floors. There's a Veggie Prep job. So this is a separate room that a guy, all he does is cut and chop vegetables usually through machines. Another job is a butcher. So we actually get, big sides of beef and meat that's got to be sliced up and cut up, and chicken that's got to be washed, and things like that. Pork chops got to be cut. Lunch meat's got to be sliced. So that's the job of the butcher. Also at the ADX where I worked, so I got to feed El Chapo. I got to feed the Uni-Bomber. I got to feed the Boston Bomber, the Shoe Bomber, the Oklahoma City Bomber, the ADX Supermax. So you got to have a special gate pass to get in there. So when I went to work every day at the ADX, I actually left the camp. You walk past the guards, and you just go out the main door that all the staff at the prison use to go in and out. Campers get to go out there too. And we wait out in the parking lot, and a van comes and picks us up. The van is driven by another inmate, just like us. And the ADX Supermax is maybe a mile away, so he would drive us over there. And then when we get to the Supermax, now we have to go through their security. And they got 2 sets of fences, and they got guard towers, and the Supermax is the most secure prison in the world. And you will not believe how much stuff gets stolen out of that every day by the inmates who work there. Oh, God, it's crazy. It would be so easy to sneak a cell phone in there, and if you can take stuff out, you can take stuff in. We even go through a metal detector. But we are allowed to bring books and stuff. I have a book in my hand with a cell phone in the book. That doesn't go through the metal detector. You lay that on a table, and you go through the metal detector, and you grab your books. And they never check. And I could have got a cell phone to El Chapo if I really wanted, but I'm not going to go there. But this ADX, the Supermax, I laugh because I figured out 2 different ways to escape if I was an inmate there. Of course, you would need help from a guard. A lot of the guys there, we would swap stories on how to escape from the Supermax. It's not that secure. I mean, it is. They've never had an escape. It would have to be an inside job, but the stuff that is stolen out of there. So inside of the Supermax, there's a couple different jobs that you have at the ADX Supermax. One is the food service. We have a whole dish pit. We scrape all the trays that come from El Chapo and come from the Uni-Bomber. And sometimes these guys write little notes on their tray. That, it's usually a complaint note. I didn't get enough cereal. Something like that. Where was my chicken? Something like that. My tray was missing, and we just usually show the note to the guards, and they throw it. They take care of what they got to do. Besides that, we have a big assembly line, and they do 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm going to tell you, the food is really, really, really good that those inmates eat at the ADX Supermax. I used to get jealous. How come we don't get this food at the camp? And they go, you do get this food, you just have a lousy cook. Our food wasn't too bad. but the cooks at the ADX Supermax, and I was one of them, sometimes I cook their meals, we take our pride, you might say. We make sure that they get good food. Those guys will write you up left and right if the food is bad, if the food's not all there, if the quality's bad. I mean, we have like Thursdays a chicken night, and it's baked chicken with herbs and spices on it, big old quarter piece of chicken with a baked potato and butter, no sour cream. They get a salad, they get green beans. Every day those guys get a dessert. It's either ice cream or cake, and they have their own baker, and they bake that stuff fresh for the guy every day. There's a Veggie Prep guy at the Supermax. There's a butcher at the Supermax. He'll cut up steaks. I mean, one of the big nights there is meatloaf night, believe it or not. That's twice a month, and the meatloaf's really, really good, and it's real hamburger. There's no nasty bones in there, nothing. The chicken breast that we get for chicken fajita night, real chicken breast. It's cut up. It's all on the grill with peppers and onions, with tortillas and cheese, and these guys eat pretty good, man. I'm telling you. But that's all they're locked up for. You know about the Supermax. I mean, that's prison. That's isolation. Those guys, maybe they get out once a day in a little cage, put out into what's called a yard that they never see the sun. That yard that they put them in, they still can't. Maybe they can see the sky, and that's an hour a day, and that's if they're lucky. That happens. They're cut off from everybody in the world. But a big thing to do for the campers that work in that Supermax is sneak food out. And there's a bunch of ways that we do that. A lot of guys shove chicken breasts down their pants, blocks of cheese, everything. They shove it in their boots. Even though we get patted down when we leave, the guards half pat you down. Guys get away with it. Another thing they do is they put it in the recycling bin. So one of the jobs is recycling. So at a camp, all the garbage is sorted out. Any kinds of cans and foil and all that is put into one heap. Then you got you know about recycling. You got your cardboard, your plastic. You got your it's all sorted into different piles. The cans and all that stuff is taken into a recycling place that actually pays, and that goes to the inmates fund, and supposedly they buy something with the inmates off that. There's a guy who drives the recycling truck, I think 3 times a week, and he takes it to the town of Florence, and he unloads that. There's a guy that also takes the garbage truck. It's a compactor garbage truck. There's an inmate who drives that to the dumps, and he goes like once a day on that job. So a lot of the guys that work at the ADX would hide blocks of cheese and packages of meat in another box and wrap it around and put it in another box and hide that into the recycling bin, which goes into the trash compactor, which gets driven off to the dump. But before it gets driven off to the dump, the driver, that box is taken over to a recycling center where inmates go through all that and sort out the trash, and the inmates who work there will find that block of cheese and that big side of beef and that meat and whatever else is in there, and they take back to the units, and they know who gets what because it's all been sorted out. So it's a big racket. It's a big racket. Another job they have. So when I first got there, I had a hernia, and I was waiting to get an operation, and they wouldn't let me do a heavy duty job, so they gave me one of the easiest jobs you have. It's called the Condiment Crew. So on Thursdays and Fridays for 2 hours. So I'm working 4 hours a week. So we get a whole bunch of tables lined up in the cafeteria. We had to make these little packages of condiments with coffee, a sugar, a spork, tea bags, and salts and peppers, and creamer and sugar. And then they put it in a little plastic bag, and there's a guy that seals it at the end. And we put enough to last a week. And these little plastic bags went to the inmates at the ADX. Because once a week, the ADX inmates get a little plastic bag full of condiments. So that's your salt, your pepper, your coffee, your creamer, your tea bags, salt and pepper, your sporks. It's all, and that's got to last them a week. Another job, here's probably the most easiest job in the whole camp. It's called the Spice Crew. They work 1 hour a month. And what happens is once a month, these big packages of like oregano and Italian seasoning and crushed peppers and garlic salt and garlic powder and all those kinds of spices, but they come in bulk in big boxes. So this crew gets together and they grab the big box of garlic salt and they scoop it and put it into plastic bags, maybe 1 pound bags, and the guy with the machine seals it. And then those bags are distributed to all the 4 facilities, to the cooks at the ADX, the cooks at the penitentiary, the cooks at the FCI medium, and the cooks at the camp. And that's got to last them a month. Another job is the warehouse job. So there's 4 big buildings at the whole complex of Florence, and these are warehouses. This is where all your frozen stuff comes, all your dry goods, all your food, and not only that, any kind of blankets, toothpaste, your commissary items, your cleansing, your cleaning stuff, anything that a prison would order gets stored in the warehouse. So all trucks come in and out all day delivering this stuff from the companies. The guys in the warehouse drive forklifts. They'll get the order of, let's say they got to order coffee, because they serve coffee at the camp. They make it every day, a couple big yurts full of it. So let's say they got a case of coffee, and there's a guy who runs the warehouse, and that's another inmate. There's always a CO overlooking all this, but there's a guy who does the inventory. There's a guy who does the ordering. Inmates actually order the food. They get it okayed first. There's a guy who does receiving. There's a guy who puts everything away in its place. Then there's an inmate who drives the orders from the warehouse to the penitentiary, to the ADX, to the camp, and to the FCI. He actually delivers whatever those camps order. An inmate drops it off. It's a whole distribution center. And one of the little side hustles that guys do that work in the warehouse is, hey, if there's a case of coffee missing, there's a case of honey buns missing. My phone's ringing. So there'll be a case of something missing, and the guy who does the ordering and receiving kind of checks it but doesn't check it off, and that case makes it back to the camp, usually maybe through the landscaping guy, through the delivery guy. There's a lot of jobs where guys work outside, and their little hustles to get that case of honey buns or coffee or whatever it could be back to the camp, and then that's resold. So another job is, here's a good one, it's called a town driver. So there's an inmate, there's actually 3 guys that did town driving one at Florence camp. So guys actually get released almost every day. We had four prisons, the ADX Supermax, the penitentiary, the FCI, which is a medium, and the camp. And within those four prisons, people get released every day, even from the Supermax. They're not all those guys are doing life. Well, they need a ride to the bus station. And guess who takes them? An inmate. An inmate might be picking up, Terry Nichols, if he's got a 30-year sentence and he's getting out in 30 years, or the 30 years is up. An inmate like me will go pick him up in the van and take him to the Greyhound bus station in Pueblo, Colorado. There's no guard with him. They give him a little cell phone, but he can only call the prison. He can't call anything else. Sometimes this inmate takes people to the Denver airport. He's gone all day driving. Sometimes he takes inmates to the hospital. So one of the little perks inside that the drivers do is, and sometimes it's not by choice, they get asked to, when they get to that Greyhound bus station, to pull over in the parking lot and park in front of that 7-Eleven and get out of the car and tie their shoe, and there's going to be a box next to him, and he needs to put that in the van, and he needs to drive that back to the camp and get it inside. And inside of that box could be full of cell phones, could be full of alcohol, could be full of drugs. And one of the little hustles those drivers do is that. But sometimes they get caught, because when they come back to the complex, there's a gate. A lot of times they get waved through, but then they get checked and they get searched, and you never see that driver again. And I've seen that happen. Some drivers won't put up with that. I knew a guy that was a Mormon, and he took over the job of town driver. He wasn't having it, and they knew better to even ask him. Other guys would get. I knew a guy that got tickets, speeding tickets, and everything else, and they said, you got to pay for that, and they gave him a court day, and we're not going to let you show up to go to your court date to fight that speeding ticket, you need to pay it. And he didn't have the money to pay it, and his driver's license got taken away, and that held him up to go into the halfway house later, and the whole thing was. So I got offered to do the town driver job. I turned it down. I didn't want, no, not happening to me. So I had a valid driver's license, and I was from California, and they want guys from out of state. They don't want a local guy that lives in town that's going to be driving every day. Another job is a staff driver. So there's a guy, he told me he got paid $200 a month to do this. He would pick up the staff at the different prisons and drive them to, there's a big training center there. So maybe he'd go to the FCI and he's got to pick up 6 officers, take them over to the training center, and then pick them back up and take guys from one penitentiary to go have lunch in another place. He might be driving the warden around on a tour. He was called a staff driver. And then there was a park and ride that some of the drivers would commute and all park in one parking lot, but they work at different prisons, so he would go pick up those staff members and drop them off at their jobs. Another job is community service. So there's guys who actually go and work in town. I think there was a crew of about 20 guys. And so they're going to go work with Park and Recs guys in the town of Florence. Maybe they're going to pick up trash. Maybe they're going to resurface a baseball field. Maybe they're going to build a bridge. You know, they're going to do something within the community and it's going to be labor work. But usually the people, the Parks and Recs guys will buy them pizzas, buy them sodas. I was told those guys when they're out there, the guys that work for the city will give them cigarettes, let them smoke all day. Some of them, I've heard they drink beers out there. And they get out of the camp every day. And it gives them a feeling that they're actually going outside into the real world and coming back to work. And one of the other perks is, yeah, when they're out there, they can get a pack of cigarettes dropped off to them and sneak that back into the camp. They can get drugs, they can get anything they want, sneak it back into the camp. Most times they're not searched when they come back in. There are times when inmates get searched every single day, and that's just when they're cracking down. So another job is the maintenance. So you got electrical, you got plumbing, you got carpentry, you got people who paint, and you got maintenance guys. Everything's always got to be prepared. There's a whole crew. And these guys will actually go over to the ADX, and they go inside and they fix, like El Chapo's toilet's broken. They're going to go fix El Chapo's toilet. If the Uni-Bomber shower head is not working, they're going to go in there and fix the Uni-Bomber shower head. Of course, they're going to take the Uni-Bomber and put him in a holding place somewhere, and they're going to go fix his cell. And these guys also do maintenance and repairs at the penitentiary and the FCI medium, because campers are only ones that are not in custody, and we can go anywhere. Well, the lobbies at the ADX and the penitentiary and the FCI and the medium, the lobby area, might be for visitors and staff, but inmates aren't allowed to go in there. Campers go in there. So there's a whole crew that will go in there, buff the floors, clean the bathrooms for the visitors, clean the visiting areas. The hustle that those guys might have, it's not too much of a hustle, but so I know guys that worked at the ADX Supermax in the penitentiary, and while they were cleaning the rec room, there's the vending machines there, and there's free codes to get all the candy bars they want. And one guy got caught doing it, Snicker bars, but they let him eat all this candy and they could bring it back. Another hustle is they can pick up all the cigarette butts outside the doors of the guards, because guards smoke like crazy in those places. So they can come back with a pocket full of cigarette butts. Again, these jobs are 12 cents an hour, all the way up to maybe 40 cents an hour. The highest paid job I ever heard of was $200 by the staff driver. There's a job called Unicorn, and we didn't have that at our camp, but that's a big factory, and you might make furniture. You might, I've heard there's a dairy at Lompoc, so they got guys who work at the dairy. There's guys who work on a farm and pick produce, and those jobs pay $200-300 a month. We didn't have that. Another job is education department. So they actually have ACE classes, that's adult continued education, and you can take classes at night. I took a course on real estate, how to flip a house, from an inmate who was there doing time for real estate fraud, believe it or not. Now, I did tax preparation fraud. I was asked to do a course on how to prepare your taxes. No, not going to do it. Not going to incriminate myself twice. But these inmates actually teach a lot of these classes. There were some teachers from a Pueblo Community College that came and taught things like solar power and alternative energy and stuff like that. Also, GED classes are taught by inmates, and that's usually done in the day. At our camp, there's 2 guys that worked in this back office, and they were kind of administration education. And what they did was, before you can get released from the camp, you have a certain amount of courses you got to take, and some of them are tests you have to take on re-entry, and they want you to know how to open up a bank account, how to fill out a job application, how to do a resume. And these guys, their little hustle was, hey, don't worry about that. We'll fill all that stuff out for you if you slip me $10 worth of tunas. So at my camp, the money is tunas. I know a lot of prisons, it's stamps. At Florence camp, they don't want stamps. Stamps, if you buy a book of stamps for $10, it's worth $7. And at my camp, they didn't want fun. They want tunas. They want meat. So tuna comes in these packages. There was carnitas that came in a package. There was chicken that came in a package. There was ground beef that came in a package. There was oysters that came in a package. There was mackerel that came in a package. Any kind of meat in a package. Tuna was the big staple. Tuna was $1.45 a packet. So they called that $1.50. They rounded off so you get a free nickel. So tuna was the big thing. The education department, actually, they have one at the ADX. There's 2 guys from the camp that went to the ADX that would do all these, plan out these education courses for El Chapo and for the Uni-Bomber, and they would, and there was little tests and quizzes, and maybe they get their GED, but it was these guys they're never going to meet the Uni-Bomber face to face, but the guards will deliver their tests to them and their education packets to study. Then they get it back, and these guys would grade their tests, and they'd get a GED that way. Another job at the ADX is rec. So there's a job rec. There's the rec guy. So there's the guy who's going to put the lines on the softball field and keep the field all nice and sweep off home plate and all that. Put volleyball courts in. We had a horseshoe thing, and he'd take care of that. We had bocce ball, so he kept that all clean and swept out. We had a big gym with volleyball and handball and all that. He would hand out tennis rackets, and we had tennis. We had any kind of sports equipment that people want. Soccer ball, baseballs, bats. Yes, we're allowed to have bats. So he would hand all this stuff out. There was another rec guy that was in charge of the music rooms. That was my favorite. Kept the guitars in order. We had a piano. We had keyboards. We had drums. There's an arts and craft guy that's in charge of all that, keeping the arts and craft room up to date. And over at the ADX again, to keep El Chapo and the Uni-Bomber happy in their mind, these rec guys would come up with games, crossword puzzles, search words, and bingo was a big one, and they would actually give these guys prizes. So can you imagine the Uni-Bomber, the Boston Bomber, the Shoe Bomber, the Oklahoma City Bomber, and El Chapo all got a bingo score pad, right? And Uni-Bomber, bingo! Uni-Bomber gets it first. He hits the button at the bar. He gives his card to the guard. The guys, my friends that work in the rec, check it out, make sure he's really got the bingo. Because it takes time. It's not done. Bingo might be on the TV screen, and anyways, it's funny. But they played bingo, and Uni-Bomber, he would win a box of cookies. You know what I mean? The Uni-Bomber might win. What would the Uni-Bomber win? But they gave him candy, Snicker bars. You know what I mean? It's funny. So that was their job, to keep coming up with games and ideas for all these terrorists to play. But it's a real job, and they actually got paid like $80 a month to do it. So it's funny. Another job is orderly. So every building that you live in has bathrooms and showers and sinks, and there's orderlies for every bathroom. So we had eight bathrooms in my building and 8 bathrooms in the other one. And so these guys clean the showers and the toilets and all that every day. And maybe it's a 2-hour-a-day job. I think they made about $60 a month. Maybe it was 30 to start. After you've been there a while, 60. Not much of a hustle there to make side money, but some of those guys sold their jobs. So what they would do, or they were paid to work by the inmates. So let's say you got a stockbroker. Let's say you got a guy like Michael Cohen, right? And he's at the camp and he's doing his time, but he don't want a job. He don't want to work. And they tell him, Michael, you're going to clean the bathrooms. Well, Michael's going to sell that job to an inmate. He's going to find a guy like Mark. Is going to go, Mark, I noticed you clean the bathrooms, on range 2. They gave me range 4. I'll give you $50 a month if you clean the bathrooms for me, and you can keep whatever pay they give you too. So Mark Cohen gives $50 a month, to the other Mark. So John the orderly's cleaning range 2. He's getting $30 a month for that. Now he's going to clean the now he's going to clean Mark Cohen's, Michael Cohen's job. He's going to clean the bathroom for him. He's going to get 50 that Michael Cohen's giving him, plus 30. Plus he's got 30 from the other job, so he's doing all right. And the guards don't care; they just want the job done. Also, these orderlies will work at the ADX, the penitentiary, and the FCI, cleaning the lobbies and buffing floors and all that. Then there's medical orderlies. So that's the guy that's going to take care of all the trashes and clean the medical rooms and the dental chairs and all that. And he also sets up a table in the morning, and all the guys that are sick, they're waiting to see the doctor. He's going to check you in, you call the doctor, tell the doctor, yeah, I got 18 inmates out here waiting to see you. And he's going to call your name, and you're going to see the doctor. And the medical's a mess. The medical's a mess. Don't get sick. You literally got to die in front of a cop for them to actually give you medical attention. The doctors are really nice, and they'll tell you that they're going to do the world for you. But at the end of the day, it's all about walk the track, drink some water, and you'll be fine. Medical's a mess in prison. Another job is commissary. So commissary is a big one. So every week, inmates go to commissary. This is where we buy all our soap, our hygiene, our shampoo, our radios, our tunas, our meats, our stamps, our wham whams and zoom zooms and ding dongs and ho hos and coffee. And anything that you can possibly buy, I'll be doing a video on what you get at commissary. But we line up every day. You're called. There's a list that goes up on the wall, and your name's on the list. And let's say 100 guys are going to commissary that day, and if you're number 98, you might be standing in line for 4 hours. But if you give the guy $5 or $10 that works there, he'll bump you up to number 2, and that's their little side hustle. Also, those guys get free stuff from the COs that work in there. You might give them a case of soups, extra stuff that's been ordered off the inventory, things that go out of, things that they're no longer carrying on the commissary. Let's say they decide we're not going to sell honey buns anymore. It's going off the list, but we got 8 cases. You guys can have it. He gives it to those guys. They get it and they sell it. So, and they get about $160 a month. I think it's a really good job. But that's ran. That's not. It's hard to get in there. Most of these jobs are locked up by the inmates who work there, the commissary guys. So these are like the homeboys. So in a camp, they don't allow like surrenders or tenures, no gangs. But some of them slip through because they just had never been arrested. They weren't officially on paper known that they're affiliated. So they get through the system because they got caught on another charge. And so I call them homeboys. They ran the commissary. So if you weren't a homeboy, you weren't getting a job there. Some of the jobs, like landscaping, nobody cared. Recycling, nobody cared. There's some jobs, just take it. We don't care. A lot of guys in the kitchen, the cook jobs, that's kind of locked up. It is and it isn't. When I was at the ADX, when I first worked there, it was locked up by the PISAs, but that changed, and now it was open season. Anybody could go. Let's see. So one more job is. I'll just get into the last job that everybody hates. It's called lockdown. lockdown crew. So what happens at the camp is if somebody gets stabbed or shaked at the penitentiary or the FCI, the medium, or they get in a fight, or they push a guard, or they, or they just get into a gang, or they go on a food strike, or whatever it is they want to do, they lock that facility down, right? And the inmates over at the penitentiary that work in the kitchen, they're not even allowed out of their cell. But somebody's got to feed them. That's when they take the campers and they make us go over there for like 10 hours a day. And they got 2,000 people at the medium. We only got 500 in the camp. You got to make 3 meals a day. And so you're on a big long assembly line and you're making their trays. At first they only get bologna sandwiches for about a week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then they start lightening up and they give them real food. But we're making thousands and thousands and thousands of lunches and bologna sandwiches and all that stuff. And the funny thing is, while we're going over there to work, I could see the inmates in the penitentiary peeking through the window, flipping us off. We could spit your food, motherfucker. Why are you flipping the guys you're going to go make your food off? They're mad because we're campers, I guess, and there's the big jealousy thing. Because we don't have to join gangs in the camp, and, we're not hardcore tough like them, I guess. And, there's a big thing, campers, and we don't have a fence. We're doing less than 10 years. They might be doing life, so they're flipping me off. How do you know I'm not going to piss and shit and, all over your food? But, okay, flip me off. I'm still going to go make your lunch. That's just the way it is. Anyway, so that's the crazy jobs we got in prison. I'm going to do another one when I worked at the ADX, what that's all about. That one's pretty crazy. And there's a culinary school I went to. I'm going to do another video on that. So please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Thanks for listening.